Hello, welcome to Let's Think Outside the Box. This is, I believe, season 10. Today, again, I'm well privileged to have to host one of my wonderful friends and OB alma mater from one of the incredible schools of this country, the one and only Doctoress Balunywa Mahiri, we're going to discuss something in respect to educated fools versus clever fools. Mr. Mahiri Balunywa, please introduce yourself and let's set the ball rolling.
Oh, you already said it. Mahiri Balunywa is my name. I belong to Center for Critical Thinking and Alternative Analysis, based in Kampala. I'm writing my PhD in International Political Economy at Makero University. And what else do you need from me? I think that's all.
Okay, tell us something about educated fools versus clever fools, Doctoress.
Well, again, you've got me passed down, but let me just say this. First and foremost, when we talk about educated fools and clever fools, these are common concepts that could be understood from the English milieu. But we must also understand that the concept of educated fools versus clever fools, educated fools belong to the current generic milieu. Then the clever fools belong to the variant ecumenical milieu. You know, when we talk about the educated fools, we're talking about these people who have gone to school, but their education has not helped them, has not enabled them to transform them from society into society, and they've not had an impact on society. Those are the educated fools. You go to school, you acquire a degree, you acquire a master's degree, or you can even acquire a PhD, but your knowledge is not relevant to you and is not even relevant to the people of your community. In other words, it's not transformative education. Then when we talk about the clever fools, we're talking about this kind of people who have never been to school.
Yes.
But their contribution to society is enormous. You know, those are the clever fools.
Right.
He has no degree, he has no bachelor's, he has no certificate, he has no diploma, but his impact on the community is high. And you know, these are some of the people that universities keep on calling and awarding them honorary PhDs. Have you heard about that?
Yes.
We have the likes of, I don't want to name, but in this country we have some people who have been given honorary PhDs. And when you look at the background, you discover they don't have any qualification. How can such a person be invited? Let me be just straight. Mulwana, the late Mulwana. You know, this is a guy who had very many industries. He employed very many graduates, and at one time, Makero University said, no, some of these people have not gone to school, but their impact and their contribution to society is so transformative. Absolutely. So we need to invite them and award them honorary PhDs. So I don't want to say, but these I would say they're clever fools.
Right. Right. It reminds me of one of these guys. Actually, I think it was Jeff Kennedy was trying to beat the arms race that had to do with sending people to the moon, if you remember. And I think when Jeff Kennedy visited Russia, one of the gifts that the president of Russia gave to Jeff Kennedy was actually a puppy that belonged to the dog that actually was sent in the first rocket that landed on the moon. And Jeff Kennedy took it as an insult of sorts, so he went back and arranged some of the best people from MTI, Harvard, David, and asked them to be the first people to send the man on the moon. And guess what? Every time they tried it, several times they couldn't. Then there were these so-called ordinary people, the so-called Apollo, the Apollo team. They came up with, call them, average people. They set up a team and they were able to send the first man to walk on the moon. And that's why they call them the Apollo team. So what my brother Doctoress is trying to emphasize here is to talk about people who may look average in nature, but who think outside the box and are able to go an extra mile and do things in rhyme with what the great Bernard Shaw said. Most men see things as they are, and that's why I dream of things that are not, and ask why not. So these are challenges. So please continue exploring in terms of what is the problem. Do you think people just go to school to get titles and simply get within their comfort zones? Why don't you see a reflection of these so-called PhD holders or doctorate holders or whatever holders changing society? Why don't we see that in Africa?
Of course, you know very well that these days qualifications have turned into fashions. You know, I'm sorry to say, but I must be straight.
Yes.
That acquiring PhDs is now a fashion. Every fool gets it. But during the times of Chinua Achebe, Obio Konko, Longmans, Landlands, all these great guys, it was very difficult to find someone with a PhD. And the one you found with a PhD was extra, how can I say? It was extra respected in terms of content. But these days, people acquire PhDs. You know, I don't believe in acquiring or obtaining qualifications. I believe in winning qualifications.
Yes.
You know, I've had a very big problem with my friends who have done their PhDs from South Africa and other Scandinavian countries where they go in 9 months someone comes back with a PhD. So they keep on asking me, Maher, why don't you get one from there? And my argument has been, no, I don't want to obtain a qualification. I want to win a qualification. You know, I grew up knowing very well that a PhD is something which is won. You know, it's worked for. You know, like the way Franz Fanon puts it.
Yes.
But independence is not a gift. Independence is not a gift given upon demand. It's a reward for those who struggle for it. So a PhD is supposed to be struggled for.
Right.
But these days, it's not struggled for. That's why these days you find that the richest people are again the people with PhDs. Then you ask yourself, if the rich people are the people with the PhDs, do they reason? You know, is there an impact? Is the knowledge transformative? So these days, qualifications have turned into fashions.
Right.
Every fool, Dick, Tom, and Harry acquire these qualifications.
Right.
But the impact of those qualifications, those people who own them.
Yes.
So we have very many educated fools. And in this country, we have people who even take pride unemployed graduates. And someone takes pride in forming an association of unemployed graduates. Meaning these are graduates, went to school, they were told the theory and the practice, but they've been unable to transform the theory into practice.
Right.
And this is a very big problem.
And
that's why our level of education and the nature of education has become a hoax.
Absolutely. So you see, we're talking about debunking the education system. Last time we were trying to make people that you see the ideology of saying, do you understand, can even, it's a limitation to your understanding by itself. Because the argument is, do you understand? And what the doctor is trying to emphasize is that even the so-called movers and shakers of this nation, the likes of Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, call it what, any rich fella right now, perhaps the richest people on the planet are people at one time who actually thought outside the box and even kind of debunk this tradition or colonial or whatever education system they have. So then, when you lose that free thought, that ideology to be able to think on your feet, outside the box, you may not be able to change the impact of your society.
You know, education is supposed to be a theoretical construct.
Yes.
You know, in education they give you the theory.
Yes.
And the essence of this theory is for you to theorize it and transform it into practice.
Absolutely.
So once you fail to transform the theory into practice, then you become an educated fool.
Absolutely.
You know,
and
speak very good English.
Yes.
Put on, you know, I normally say them, you know, put on a tie and a coat and move around and speak through the nose.
Yes.
But the content, the practice is not there.
Absolutely. And that's
so the question would be, the question is, how do we harness the binary of the theory and the practice? Because once the theory and practice come into play, then you have what we call an antithesis, you know, which is the practice, which is the impact.
Absolutely.
You know, people of 50 years from now, the level at which development Uganda was and Africa was high, right?
Yes.
Now today we have very many universities.
Yes.
We have very many PhD holders.
Yes.
We have very many masters holders.
Yes.
But have these PhD holders and masters holders made even an inch to what the classical PhD holders of the 19th century did?
I know.
So we need to question.
Absolutely.
We need to question.
You're talking about
the PhDs we're talking about today.
Absolutely.
We need to question them.
Absolutely. You're talking about people like Ngugi wa Thiong'o who actually not had PhDs, but their works are cited around us.
No doubt.
You see?
No doubt.
And your argument.
Did Plato have a PhD?
No,
absolutely. Did Aristotle have a PhD?
Absolutely.
Why do we keep on quoting them? And why don't we quote ourselves?
Yes.
Why don't we come up with something new? Why do we keep on reciting?
Right.
You know? It's like a Bible. They've said the Bible that we share. We keep on quoting.
Yes.
You know, when will I begin saying according to Lubogo, according to Mahi?
Yes.
All the time according to Plato, according to Aristotle, according to Okonko, according to Bilgi.
Yes.
So you can see that we have reached what we call ETC, end of our thinking capacity. You know, no thinking at all, no innovations at all, no imagination at all. Where are we? We need to rethink.
I think that's the point you're trying to make, Dr. Rees, in argument in terms of following the law of the negation, drive the thing from the thesis to the synthesis, and then to the synthesis, and then to the synthesis. So that whatever you're saying is churned into action. That's what the crew is trying to emphasize here.
Right.
So, Dr. Chris, in terms of social, political, economic dispensation in this country, where do you think the thinkers are, and why is it? How many, for example, centers for critical thinking do we have in this nation?
You know, the problem we have is that we have right people in wrong positions and wrong people in right positions. Once you have the wrong people in the right positions and the right people in wrong positions, then you don't have any thinking. You know, these days people have lost thinking.
Yes.
You know, people now think about the stomach. You know, I would tell you that in the 19th century,
yes,
it was very difficult for you to come across a professor or a PhD holder in politics. You know, why? As intellectuals,
yes,
we are supposed to critique society. We are supposed to be above society. You don't be in society, you're supposed to be above society. But now people have stopped thinking.
Yes.
Because the issue is survival for the fittest. We are living in a capitalistic world where we are, you know, I like the way the Marxists put it. We are living in a society of man eat man. You either eat or you are eaten. You either swallow or you are swallowed. So in that kind of thing, even the concept of thinking is not there.
Absolutely.
You know, the think tanks have died.
I know.
You know,
I know.
In the early 1990s, we used to have very good thinkers, the likes of Professor Funadula, Professor Mujaju. These were prolific thinkers who could come out, think,
yes,
rethink,
yes,
critique,
yes,
and give solutions.
Absolutely.
But these days we don't have people who think. We have people who argue. You know, there's a difference between argument and thinking.
Yes.
You know, thinking is encased within what I would call facts.
Right.
But argument is encased within what I would call that we have facts and we have truth. You know, truth is something which is crafted. Yes. You know? Yes. Facts are scientific, they are seen, they are visible. So we no longer think about thinking. We now talk about arguments. You know, arguments and thinking, those are very different things.
Absolutely. And I think the argument is right because you see, last time we were talking about paradigms, research paradigms, we were arguing from the epistemological point of view to the ontological. Right. So the argument is the ontological because we want to see the things into practice. Right. We want to feel what these so-called academia or professors, and you rightly talked to me last time that even the argument or even the very interpretation of the word professor comes from the word what you profess.
Oh yeah. This reminds me at one time. I was presenting a paper with one professor whose name I don't want to mention. It was in Japan and it was 2003. Yes. So after my presentation, and at that time I was just a master's student, writing my master's in public administration, 2003. Right. So the organizers kept on referring to me as professor. Then the real professor kept on getting uncomfortable. So he told me, man, can you tell this guy that you're not a professor? Why is he calling you professor? So I said, but I'm not the one who told him to call me professor. But he kept on insisting. Right. Tell them. Right. Then, of course, humbly, out of pressure, I told the chairman, I said, you are referring to me as professor, but I'm not a professor. Then the chairman said, you know, the word professor simply comes from the word to profess. You know, if you have an idea that you believe in, it's a profess. So the word professor comes from the word profess. You know, in most of American universities, once you teach in a university, you're a professor. But in Makerere or in Africa, for you to be a professor, you must have, you know, gray hair. You must have taught for 30 years for you to be called professor. You know, and you know, Professor Isa Shifji told me at the University of Dar es Salaam, you know, he's a professor, but he never wanted to be referred to as Professor Isa Shifji. Even Mamdani doesn't want to be called professor. Yes. He just wants to be called Mahmoud. I know. And his argument has been that once you lionize, you bring the concept professor, then eventually you block reasoning. Right. You block the reasoning of this person. Right. Yet reasoning is very important. So at times, people use these titles to hegemonize, to scare, to threaten. Yes. So at the end of the day, you who's the professor, you begin thinking that what you are thinking is not right. Right. Yet actually, the thinking is what makes someone to be called a professor. You know, the French refer to every teacher as a professor. Yes. So the word professor is not something that is, but of course here in Africa, where we have very many educated fools, right? You know, they lionize and emphasize the concept of professorship. I know, and that's but you know, it has roots. Yes. You know, the Greeks, you know, had a very different thinking. You know, the Greeks believe that all the people who came from the East are wise. So they don't use the word professor, they simply say wise.
Yes. And that reminds me of the statement you wrote me yesterday when we were over a cup of tea. You remember you were arguing and saying that the tigress, what was that word? The power. Yes.
You don't need to declare the tigritude of the tigress.
Say that again.
Especially
say that again to audience. You don't
need to declare the tigritude of the tigress, especially if her powers are known.
Excellent.
You know the tiger.
Yes.
The female tiger is the tigress.
Absolutely.
When it gives birth to kids,
yes,
to cubs, it becomes very hostile.
Yes.
And you don't have to declare. So at times I normally tell people, why do you emphasize? Why do you emphasize your title? You know, everyone wants to be. Every professor wants to be called professor. If you don't call him professor, it's a crime. Everyone wants to be called a doctor. If you don't call him a doctor, it's a crime.
Yeah.
I even have my grandfather, my uncle, who won LC1 chairman. And when he won LC1 chairman, he called his wife and told them that please stop calling me daddy, call me chairman. So when I went back to Busoga,
yes,
I met this, I met the auntie, then I asked auntie,
yes,
where is uncle? Then auntie told me, oh no, don't call him uncle. He's called chairman. I said, why? Oh, he has just been elected chairman of this village. So you told us.
I know.
We no longer call him uncle, or daddy, we call him chairman.
Absolutely.
So these titles have a way they block reasoning.
I know.
And they block natural reasoning and natural respect.
Right.
So at times, when you go in most of these Western countries,
yes,
all these books we read are for professors.
Yes.
But I bet you, if you can find a book where someone refers to himself as Professor so-and-so,
I know.
Then nobody just use first names.
I know, actually.
So at times when it comes to academics,
yes,
we don't need to emphasize title.
Right.
We emphasize reasoning.
Right.
Rationalism.
Actually, what amazes me, even during my interaction with some of my professors, actually, on a doctorate level, there's a particular professor whose name I wouldn't want to mention. I kept calling Professor, but I said, please don't call me. And I said, why should I call you? He said, call me, by my first name. And I was extremely humbled that came from him. And that's the kind of humility we're talking about.
Yes.
And these are people with the legal jurists. Right now, as we speak, we're trying to write a book called The Legal Rebels, Legal Giants of Decision. People who have actually made impact in terms of jurisprudence. Right. You'll be amazed to find that some people who are there are not categorically lawyers per se, falling within the square of lawyerism, but because they have actually contributed in terms of jurisprudence.
Ideally, when you study, knowledge humbles you.
Yes.
Most of the intellectuals who are highly celebrated have been humbled by knowledge.
Yes.
So they no longer want to be referred to as professors or doctors.
Yes.
When you find somebody insisting, call me professor, it's like your father insisting, am I not your father? Do you know I'm your father? Then you have to know there's a problem with that father.
Right.
So professorship, knowledge humbles you and makes you to go back to the normal local mahiri.
Right. So I really thank you for that dispensation, my brother Mahiri. I will continue having these debates over and over again. We call them, let's think outside the box. So as I say, please don't give up your dream, don't give up your desire, don't give up your focus. We keep telling you every now and then. It doesn't mean that you're going to fail, but even as you fail, rise up, rise to the occasion. Believe in yourself. Education is extremely important.
It was Mandela who said that it does not matter how many times you fall.
Yes.
What matters is how many times you rise up every time you fall down.
Absolutely.
So academics and intellectualism is about rising up and raising up and raising up.
Absolutely. And also, I think Dr. King said that the ultimate measure of a man is not measured in terms of comfort and convenience, but in terms of adversary, in terms of challenges. So you rise up to your challenge, and I'm telling you, my friend, you're going to win. You're going to overcome. So be focused, be humble, be hungry. God bless you, and thank you for your attention.